You are now listening to the one and the only YPL Rundown.
Hello, viewers, and welcome to the third iteration of the YPL podcast. We have Steady the Bears user, we have MYZ the Pats user on the rebranded version of the podcast. This is their first appearances, so let's give them a loud, like a warm welcoming. Oh god, that was a bad, let's just forget that ever happened. But welcome, guys. It's nice to have you here. What's up,
dude? I'm really glad to be here. It truly is an honor to be on this highly regarded podcast. There's a lot of intelligent talk that goes on around these parts, so to have the opportunity to be here, it's wonderful.
Yeah, I'm
MYZ, welcome, man.
hoping that we don't get into talking about us having sex with each other like on the last podcast.
I mean, that'd be such a terrible thing to have happen. I mean, we definitely don't want to talk about that. That's for sure.
I can explain myself on that one. I had to relieve myself in the restroom very quickly. It might have been a minute or two. I just said, Luis, you've been bumped up to the co-host for this episode. Just take the reins, talk to the Bills guy, or maybe it was somebody else. And then, man, he just started talking about, hey, put one guy in the front, one guy in the back, and let's get to work. It's kind of crazy.
I mean, sometimes it can be hard to look for things to talk about, but such a mature topic just seems a little inappropriate for what we got going on. I mean, we're football guys, smash mouth American football. So to talk about that, I mean, just completely inappropriate. We'll try our best not to do that.
Hey, man, you're built for the camera, dude. You just let it go. You're taking over my shine right now. I feel like, in a way.
I mean, well, where's your camera at, bro? Like, man, I'm the only one who's got anything going on here.
I'm not set up with the camera. Maybe I can add a quick little sexy overlay. I can change my background to something fun. Let me see what I can do here. There's a few, but they're all kind of. I can add my own. Maybe I can do my spray from Left 4 Dead.
I definitely can't do my spray from Left 4 Dead.
Oh, you cannot. You're gonna get me banned.
Yeah, no, we'll not be doing my spray from Left 4 Dead.
Wait, it's reversed. That's fire. Cool.
Wow, look at that. That looks great.
What's your Left 4 Dead spray?
It's porn.
There were some pictures posted if you're curious, but probably not appropriate to talk. I mean, we're already getting pretty raunchy here, to no fault of my own, of course. Yeah. Anyways,
welcome to the podcast.
That's right. Yeah,
we're here. This is an exciting moment, historic moment. Let's do a little brief overview. Steady, you are 10-2 since your last win, correct?
That's right. Maybe 11-2. I don't really remember, but pretty good. Pretty happy with that. So we're looking forward to continuing those winning ways.
Nice. You kind of talk about how the difference between sim and comp is pretty large, you'd say. So you kind of have to adjust your gameplay a little bit when you play in this league, don't you?
Yeah, I'd definitely say so. I mean, obviously the gameplay is a lot different, but there's all the rules that change things, make some things better and some things certainly worse. So it's a little different. Sometimes, I have to run like all these random, because normally I'm playing in a comp league. I'm running one thing only, baby. We're in that gun bunch. So can't do that. So I had to explore some other options,
Sure, yeah. And MYZ, I'm not sure where you're at. Are you on the outside looking in right now?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I'm not too worried. I mean, I'm 7-2 in my user games. Losing 3 out of 3 fair sims and then having to give a force win is makes your back up against the wall. But if I win probably the rest of my games, I should be in.
Some say a recipe for success is a common used term in English, but that's a recipe for disaster. So you're basically almost golden in your user games, but just a lack of production in terms of the sim and giving up a force win. So you're kind of teetering, but honestly, looking at the bottom tier of the AFC, like you've got the Bills guy, you've got the Jags dude who just won. I'm not sure where Jit's at, but he's probably leading his division, doesn't count. Like you could go on a little winning streak and bank on one of those guys to lose, and you should be fine. If I had to guess.
I mean, I'd be curious if there was a stat for the most force wins ever gotten in a YPL season. Bills is up there. I think he's gotten 6 force wins this season. So that has definitely helped him. and one of them was from me. He was the one forced win that I did have to give. So I mean, he is really, his season has been built on forced wins and not actual wins.
So is this like a call out here live on the podcast? Like, are you saying, Bills, you're nothing, I'm way better than you are, why don't you go win a user game? Like, is that what you're saying right now?
I mean, I really think I have to. I've made him pretty much quit at halftime. 3 of the 4 games that we've played, he's just asked, can we chew at half? So, and actually in one of the games, last game we played, he literally kneeled the ball, in the first half. So I don't really think I have
What
to
the
talk.
hell?
That's sad.
I mean, that is a sad thing. I mean, player development is so important, and to just like give up on your boys like that, like you need to be like, at least when you're running, you're getting stats for your running back, and like every yard, every touchdown, like this is XP for your guys. Give them some confidence and help them become better players for the future. And to give up and kneel at halftime is a terrible thing. You probably shouldn't do that. Would not recommend it.
And the craziest thing is he has more devs than Bradster.
Bradster, I want to bring him up later because we'll spend a lot of time in the early stages of this podcast, and there's a lot of topics to cover talking about the most mismanaged team I've ever seen on franchise. But let's get to the first segment here. You're talking about the Bills. You've played Roman a lot, and you've got Miami, who's a solid adversary. If you could rank your division 1 through 4 in terms of gameplay respect, how would you do it, Miz? 1 through 4. Take yourself out, so 1 to 3. You can kind of stay off to the side for now. Being the best player in division at 1, and 3 being the worst.
Oh, I think it's pretty simple. I mean, Bills is by far the worst. I don't think there's much behind that. I mean, he pretty much just runs cover 3 and throws like all these fucking weird ass routes, but he crashes out pretty much at the first sign of adversity. I then put Roman at 2. I know he's had a tough season. I think he's lost 6 of his 8 games by a possession or less, and he did win the division last year. Granted, it was because of a fair sim, but I think if I would have had the chance to play him in that game instead of it being fair simmed, I think I could have taken the division from him. But he did win the division last year, so I'll put him at number 2. And got to give it to Viper at 1, even though he's kind of slowed down once everyone was able to catch up to his 99 speed receiver. Year 1 he was pretty damn deadly with Waddle, just because there weren't many corners that could guard him. But I think now he's kind of slowed down, but he's probably the best out of those 3. For a person I worry about playing the most, though, the last 2 times I have played him, it's been pretty blowouts in my favor. So
Well, that's the one thing you want to do. If you get into a division with players, especially players players you might not necessarily like or don't have a lot of respect for, you should be blowing them out. You should be taking your divisional mate and putting them over your knee and spanking them as hard as you can to, get your stats. Of course, stats are important, but also to employ some league supremacy, some division supremacy, because then you can be the real fucking boss. Your division is one of those rare divisions where everyone is seemingly on the same skill level, or it's pretty close. Maybe Bills is a tad bit behind, but he did have a very strong season. He's not a terrible player. Roman's definitely sliding this year, and you're right. I think Miami is a force, especially with Waddle and the way his team is built. To you, Steady. I'm not going to bring up the Packers guy, and I'm going to keep this short with you because he's a step behind you, the big 3 in that division. But in terms of because you played the Vikings twice, and you haven't played the Lions twice, right? Lions only once.
Yep.
I think Lions is a much better player than the Vikings. I'm gonna ask a little bit of a different question. Do you think it's like a large disparity?
I'd say they're like probably pretty equal. I mean, Mish always plays me very close. I don't know what the deal with that is. I know back in the day, Mish used to be kind of a baller. He used to play in some of these comp leagues, so maybe he's more used to like adjusting to defend things, and that's why he's able to like play a lot better than some of these other guys maybe who aren't used to like facing real offenses that like have thought put into it and not just like coach suggestions. So sure. I like Mish's game a lot. He makes great use of Mr. Hawkinson, and I think he's better than many give him credit for.
I think when you look at the most adaptable users in terms of user input and skill, user linebacker play, whatever you want to call it, defensive user, and his ability to make adjustments on defense, he's one of the best. It's just he loses a lot of games by 3 points. He lost to me in overtime. He lost to the Raiders guy by 3 points. He lost to you by like no more than a score, right? And he lost to the Vikings or the Lions by a score. So it's one of those teams like late in the game, he kind of runs out a little bit of gas, but like he's always kind of hanging around. Very hard to blow out. Very hard to beat by 2 scores. One of those kind of players is never really. He may never even beat you, but he's always going to be going for your neck. Never letting you off the hook. So he's a special player in that aspect.
Yeah, I totally agree. And a lot of the time, he's kind of he's careful. He's methodical is how I describe him. But he can take shots down the field too. So great user, very Sigma, very awesome.
Mm-hmm.
That's the thing with him. And Luis, I told Luis at the start that I think he's built an amazing team, dude. His team is so good. I love his team so much. I wish I had Luis's team, dude.
Of course you do. They have a 9-9 receiver.
Dude, they have a young quarterback. He's developed his receivers. They're fast. I mean, they're athletes. And you know what? The Lions, one of the best teams in the real NFL this year. And they kind of already have a bunch of the pieces. But for him to take that and add on to it, some people can't do that. Some people take what they have and they just stay the same. They kind of stagnate. But I'm proud of what he was able to do with that squad, and it's impressive.
Impressive for sure. We're gonna go to a segment called YPL Cookout. What's the word I'm looking for? YPL Cookout. Sure, why not? Ms. We've talked a lot about the YPL Cookout in general chat and voice chats and things like that. Steady, you may be unfamiliar with the concept. Do you understand to a certain degree what that means, the YPL Cookout?
Well, it's from what I understand, it's like it's this running meme joke that you guys are all gonna like meet up and have like a barbecue or something, like a YPL meetup.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone's gonna come together and meet somewhere. I mean, am I right in that prediction, that assumption?
Oh, you're exactly right. It's just hypothetical. That's probably never going to happen. We're all going to go and we're going to hang out and we're going to invite, all the players that want to come, and it's probably going to be like a bunch of people. Hypothetically, this segment of the YPL Cookout question is: if you had to punch one person in the face at the YPL Cookout, who would it be?
Wow.
It's got to be.
We'll go to Miz first. Go to Miz first. Bradster. Wow, what a call out.
Not even close to me. I pretty much like everyone in YPL to a certain extent outside of probably Bradster, and I don't even really dislike Dewan that much. He's just kind of annoying sometimes, but aren't we all? But Bradster, this whole like trying to play stupid to everything to troll people charade is just very old. I think if anything, he might have a Madden CTE from playing too much Madden, and I think if he was a smart guy, he'd donate his brain to science when his time comes, because I think there's something that scientists have not figured out yet.
Very fair. Steady. You got a guy?
Well, if it were up to me, I'd probably choose not to punch anybody in the face. But if I had to pick somebody, I would probably punch Terry in the face, and that's probably not too much of a surprise.
Terry, interesting. That's a strange one.
How is that a strange one?
Actually, yeah, can you elaborate on the Terry beef? Because I think some of the league is kind of unaware of what happened a few weeks ago when we played.
Yeah, I mean, me and Terry just don't get along too well. And so I made the decision to go and change my stream settings. And I ticked this option where if you're banned, you actually can't look at the stream at all. And I banned him a few weeks back, and he went to watch this game of the week and found out that he couldn't. So that was hilarious. I love that. That's what it's all about.
Like, what's happened? Like, is there a
story? Well, when I played the Panthers,
gentlemen, I'm sorry. Can I intercede for 1 second?
Go ahead.
We are in a position where the Chiefs can win the game with a go-ahead touchdown. Do you want to watch it quickly?
Sure. Yeah, let's go ahead and do that.
Let me know if you can see what I just put up in the stream.
Yeah, I can see that. That's wonderful.
Okay, let's see.
Yeah, this 1 minute,
laggy. 1 second. It's laggy.
It's terribly laggy. I mean,
Jesus, I'm sorry.
I mean, man, it's like I'm watching a PowerPoint.
Yeah,
let me try to adjust it.
Get this YouTube TV thing out of the.
Yeah, it just came out randomly.
Oh, well, that's not gonna help.
Okay, let me try to raise the quality, the highest it can go. just so it's more visually appealing. How's that look?
Oh hell yeah, that looks great.
Okay, look,
So
here we are. Deep shot goes out of bounds.
I mean, you don't need to get it all in one play, and I think that's an important thing you need to realize. But this Chiefs guy is kind of just slinging this thing like 70 yards.
Mm-hmm.
You set yourself up for third and manageable, or God forbid, pick up the first down here is probably the goal. I mean, you've got timeouts. You got this whole right side of the field to work with. I like the bunch call.
I like the bunch call too. I think it's very effective. Good throw. It's going to be a
Here we
first down
go.
and out of bounds. And out of bounds.
I don't know why.
Yeah,
Mr.
that's big.
hits it.
Only 5
Touch
seconds.
him in bounds.
Yeah,
And if you
so
want to talk about efficiency, a 5-second throw that gets you 10 yards, probably 11 yards in the first, and you have 2 timeouts. This guy is in the driver's seat to win this game. Let's be real. Let's not beat around the bush right now. He is.
I mean, there's still, all it takes is one big play, but like losing these timeouts is kind of a saving grace. So if, oh my God, there's
here. Oh, he's got a touchdown, and he throws an interception to
my bad. I
Bridge.
was
What a
ahead of you,
terrible
Ralph.
throw.
I mean, man.
Let's go back.
Yeah,
Swagger alert
I
by
need to see
Mish.
that again, because what was that? Was that just a terrible throw, or what?
Let's go
what is
back
the
and take a
deal
look
there?
here. I earlier in this game, I mean, I saw him throw a few bad balls. He threw a few bad balls against
I was
me.
looking.
But look
I was
a
looking
second
at
here.
X. That safety could get there, but you
Here.
freeform it to the right. You give your guy a chance. I mean, that guy is superstar. I'm sure it's a baller. I can't.
That's a high.
It.
That doesn't even have to be a high point. This is a
No,
regular
it's
throw, easy throw for a
freeform
wide open
all
guy.
the way to the right. Hope you catch it, because you can't give that up. And I don't blame for not throwing it, but to make this other throw, I see that safety on the left there lurking. Ugh. Now, I don't know if he like highballed it or if it was inaccurate. That doesn't look like a good pass from Patrick Mahomes. That looks bad.
Man, that was they robbed us of some fun right there. That's for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I really would have liked to see like, a couple seconds left. He's got one play. He's got to get in the end zone. Instead, he kind of just chucks a pick. So that was sad. Yeah.
What took the fun out of the situation for us? I'm sorry now. I'll reset the setting for you to continue talking. You blocked him out of your stream. I've never been done before in the history of YPL. We've had people talk about, I'm going to come to your house, sending addresses. I'm going to fucking kill you, dude. Your kid is a retard, this and that. I'm going to get demonetized now, but that's okay. But you blocked Terry, you blocked his minion AG. Like, elaborate a little bit.
Yeah. So I played the Panthers. We had a good game. And sometimes in the heat of the moment, I'm an entertainer, right? Sometimes you say things, but like if I was like talking to people, like if I'm like in a call with somebody, I'm not gonna be like, oh, you dumb bastard, you suck, and you're terrible. Unless we're like playing around, it's never that serious. And after the game, me and AG were like, good game, and he's like, good game, and I'm like, sweet dude, And then Terry here goes ahead and says, hey AG, he was talking smack in his live stream. Okay. And then AG's all like, frick you. And I'm like, dude, it's not that serious. Like, I'm sorry if you were offended. Like, I don't have any ill will here or anything. And he's like, nah, dude, go kick rocks. And I'm like, well, frick you too, I guess. I mean, I don't like AG very much either after that interaction. I tried to get rid of everybody who I felt like was associated. I think the Dolphins got hit. The Dolphins, Panthers, and Steelers were all the people who got hit there. But just that negativity, we don't need it. Not good. Get it out of here. Don't want it in there. Because watching me play football, it's a privilege, And when you misbehave, you kind of lose that privilege.
Understood. So, yeah. Well, I don't blame you for it. I just think that sometimes the game can get a little crazy and people talk a lot of shit.
It's the funniest thing ever. I mean, he was very mad. He was so mad. He like went on for like an hour straight in the Gen Chat about how angry he was about it. So I got my enjoyment out of it. That was very much worth it.
And that's a married man.
Married and worried about watching another person's live stream. That's crazy.
Yeah. And you know what?
Relationship.
You know what? If you want to watch, you just gotta log out. Or like if you watched it on like the Safari app and you weren't logged in, like I'm probably not logged in on Safari because I use the app. So I mean, not that big of a deal. Still can watch the games if it's actually a huge game of the week, playoffs, whatever. And I welcome you, but to be logged in, hell nah, get out of here. Frick you.
Interesting.
That's right.
Anything to say, Miz? Seemed like we caught you in the middle of a conversation there.
No, my bad. I was just no, I just think that's crazy that Terry would care that much, especially if it seems like he was the instigator in this situation.
I mean, I'm just a
May-
chill guy.
Maybe Terry is a little bit of an instigator. I wanted to get him on the podcast, and I think I will. Not with Seti, though. I don't think
Yeah, I
I.
think that'd be a bad idea. I think maybe some things could be said that would be controversial and maybe get you very demonetized. Uh,
I am not your relationship uh, coach, so it's not my point. It's not my job to fix anybody.
right.
In fact, I kind of like when people don't like each other in the league. It makes it for great content on the podcast, that's for sure. We can talk about it, bring it up. You get to go with your cool Oval Office background and use the hand signals and fix your hair, or do the flex. You can flex on them. And you and Terry kind of like. Okay, that's enough of that. That's enough of that.
There's just nothing there.
That's
Yeah,
you
not
got something there.
ideal.
That's someone that you may see in the Super Bowl if you both continue on this peak, because, like him or not, he has found a winning method in this league, and his team is very good. If you haven't looked at it,
Yeah,
it's
I mean,
extremely good.
he's got Josh Allen on the Steelers, so that's a great guy to have. He's one of like the 4 gunslingers, and that's a big thing to have. So he's done well.
I think he's done well too. Where do we go from here? I've got
Here's the
one. I've
question.
got one, man. I'm full of these prompts and these questions and these things. Um, Similarities in leagues do happen at times, and especially similarities within play styles. Um, I'm gonna set the tone with it, so I can give you guys a little of a backbone on it. If I could compare two players that remind me of each other a lot within a league, I would say that Mark and Terry are the closest you can probably get to each other. I mean, they kind of spam fucking players, and they own end of the year devs because they're playing in the AFC North is not the greatest division, but the NFC West was horribly soft. You weren't here for it. He had like Jakey Ladd in there. He had like the Rams guy solid now. Before this, he was like a 2-win team every season. And then Shane was just really bad up until recently, so finally he's picked it up. So for me, I think they're like the most two comparable players in terms of like skill sets, sort of, and the way they build their teams. And I'll even ask Miz next, because I think he knows a little more about the players in this league than you do. And if you can create a prompt, then go for it. But I'll go to Miz next.
I mean, I'd say that the only difference between Terry and Mark, and I'll give Mark some credit here, as much as I dislike his play style. He has never ran. He's ran like cover beaters, but he's never ran some of the cheesy RPOs that Terry runs. As much as I don't want to call out Terry for that, I do think that him and Mark are very different in that way. Um, Not because I don't want to slander Mark, because Terry does some crazy glitchy stuff like that tight end flat. He ran that in the Super Bowl to score what ended up being the game-winning touchdown, and that really left a sour taste in my mouth. And I think the worst part about that is that it encourages other people to do it. I actually saw, last thing I'll say on the subject is, I saw YPL OG running that tight end flat cheese route to score when the game was on the line. So, I don't think that's good for the league. But, some guys, I don't really know if I have any guys that I think play like each other. Um, yeah, I don't know. I think kind of Mark and Viper remind me a lot of each other, actually. Obviously, Viper's not as good, but just like the kind of trying to always scheme open that really fast receiver, as that's kind of what Mark does too. But I think that's about all I got in terms of similarity in play style. I can't say I pay attention too much to it.
Sure, it's a tough question. Kind of came up with it on the fly, so I don't blame anybody for not. If I had an honorary mention, I would say Shane and Jawsy. I think they're pretty similar in terms of their skill level and in terms of their grinder ability when they play. Like kind of like gunslingery, kind of like make a great play or make a terrible throw that ends up screwing you out of the game. Steady, you got anything on this one?
Well, I will say I've heard, I've often been criticized for peppering the running back um, on running back routes, like little outs, flats, whatever. I know back in the day, allegedly, that maybe Bradster used to do that sort of thing. Is that a fair assessment?
Yeah, I think that in that aspect, Brad used to throw the running back a lot, and I can give some background on it. In Madden 22, that was the fall forward year. Were you playing in that, Madden?
Yeah, I played that year. I don't know if I played him here that year, but
I
probably
don't
not.
think you did.
Yeah, I don't think I
So
did.
Bradster had Raheem Mostert, I think on the Niners. The Niners was a good roster, well built, and he would go Fountain of Youth every year. And Raheem Mostert never went below like 96 speed, and he was an X factor. He was like 32 years old, as old as 33, and he was like going to the playoffs every year. Went to the 2 Super Bowls, like literally just running the ball, falling forward, never subbing as running back. And then right when you box it up, he'll run like some flick out to the flats or a screen or like a seam up the middle and just beat you there. So like that was a very frustrating time. You're like a way better player. You could probably beat him with one hand, to be honest. He doesn't have like in terms of the gameplay. Not even trying to be rude, but like he doesn't have the adjustments. He's like stuck in his very base defense and never takes a chance. He doesn't really have like the ability to throw the ball like you do. So, in the aspect of like you, even with the run, he would like the running back would get like 40 or 50 touches in the game. So you don't do that. You're trying to throw
Yeah,
some
I mean,
dots. That's
yeah,
respectable.
trying to throw the ball. Traditionally, when I run the ball, terrible things happen. So and we fumbled today. Just not very effective. So I try not to. Back in the day, though, Jonathan Taylor, that guy could tote the rock. I don't mind running when I got a baller back there, but not really a thing that exists in Chicago. They've never heard of a baller in their life. So, yeah.
Yeah, I guess we can't forget, Steady, just to give you some more context, is Bradster won, I think it was the year 2 or year 3 NFC championship with 7 passing attempts in the game. And I think there was somewhere around 30 to 35 carries for Mostert. It was a dark time in sim history, you could say.
I mean, there have been people in the competitive Madden scene. Madden 20, a guy won with a punter at quarterback, Trace Way, and he only ran the ball and won like big money playing Madden. So in the MCS. So even there, you got some guys who like to tote that rock. But at least he had 7 passing attempts. Like, I mean, he passed a little bit, right? Like, there you
A
go.
few times, sure.
To the
In the
flat,
grand scheme of things, he passed a couple times. I mean, you knew his passes were not going down the field. They were
Right.
going to be to the flats. They were going to be like on the down, or he was probably going to punt. He was like, okay, fine. I guess I'll throw a flat on 3rd and 7 and drag and see what happens. Or like not even a curl, like literally a table route or an out route or like a drag. Like there's that's really all the guys got, which is very interesting. Well, that's why he's 5-9 or 5-8.
Yeah, I mean, it'd be nice to, those are nice things to pepper in to have as safety blankets, but to be the entire offense, probably less than ideal.
Hey, I mean, it really has worked until this year. I mean, he finally got what I would consider a below average team. And he's not been able to have the same success. Even last year, he was pretty much a playoff team every single year. So
there's been flashes. He went to the AFC, I think, championship game or the divisional game. I beat him in the playoffs once. I can't remember which one it was. It wasn't, and it was annoyingly close, but it wasn't really out of reach. I mean, his first passing attempt went for a pick 6, and he kind of went down the hole. But the guy doesn't stop running the ball if he's down 2 scores. Like he's still going to run the ball, and it does work. And it's very strange. He has a very strange philosophy about this game and about winning. That's for sure. He's an enigma.
Yeah, I think that's the perfect way to describe it. I mean, no one else plays like he does.
Enough of this Bradster talk.
Yeah, I mean, the guy's like the main character, dude.
Yeah, I know. He infiltrated the podcast last week, and he talked some crazy conspiracy stuff about YPL. Shared a lot of secrets. The guy is like fucking like Alex Jones or something. But enough of him. Let's get off the topic. Let's turn to the veteran. Let's turn to a dude who's won Super Bowls in this league, someone that has been in and out of playoff team, contending every year. We're not going to bring up the concede in the playoffs. Don't worry. That was just, I'm sure you dropped your controller or something. I'm not going to blame you for that.
No, I mean, I conceded. I'll own up to it. I was, the game was over and my 3-day-old nephew was upstairs and I was like, why would I keep playing this game when I can, go hang out with him before I left on a plane in 3 days. I was like, this is just a waste of my time. So I conceded, and I would do that 100 times out of 100.
Very fair. I'm trying to implement more of outer elements to the podcast because I think it's interesting. I think people want to see the stuff that we see when we talk about them. So I'm going to pull up one thing from Neon Sports here, and I'm going to share the screen with us. And I just want to look at one thing. And we have a lot of guys who are kind of like on the teetering edge of the playoffs, MYZ being one of them. I want to pull up the teams, and I want to see who is the worst team by record that has the best chance of making the playoffs and being a serious contender. I think that's a fair thing to do. So I'm going to go sort by the wins here. I'm going to share my screen now, and we'll go do that if you guys are okay with it.
Yeah, sounds good to me.
Let's take a look. Can you see what I see?
Yeah.
So this is kind of the range here between 12 to 19, I guess you could say. Even 19 Jawsy 6 and 7 is a little low. I would go 12 to 18. Patriots, Vikings, Bills, Lions, Ravens, Panthers, Jags. Cardinals is in. He's fine. So I think that for me, the best team here that has the best chance of making it the playoffs, because they obviously have a grind. You know, the 7 seed on both ends is up for grabs. I think 7 or 8 wins is locking it out. I just feel like on the AFC it's going to be Miz, and I think on the NFC it's got to be Mish, and Mish is a hard schedule, but I feel like he can do it. What do you think, Miz?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I'm going to say myself. It really comes down to next week. If I win against the Jaguars, I really put myself in the driver's seat to make the playoffs. I got to play towels, but I'd have the tiebreaker over the Jags and the Ravens, and I'm not really sure what the Bills tiebreaker would come down to. But I'm not too worried about him because he has to play Viper, and I think Viper's going to handle him pretty easily. So for me, it really all comes down to next week. It's pretty much going to be, I think, either me or the Jags who are going to take that final spot because he does not have the hardest schedule remaining. So if I don't beat him, I don't really see who would pass him up. And I agree, Mish in the NFC. I mean, he's a guy that I think he can beat anybody. So I think if he makes it in, whoever is the 2 seed, whether that be Benny or Steady, they might be in some trouble in the first round of the playoffs if they got to face Mish.
Absolutely. I'm getting a little bit of echo right now. Can you guys hear that? Let me try speaking again. I think I'm good. I like your assessment. I think the Jags can't he just beat Jit. He just beat the Colts, and that was a stunner of a game. He beat him by 3. Lost the lead with like a minute and a half left, and then came down and scored. And then I think that's a fair assessment. He honestly, we're looking at a potential game of the week right there. That seems to lead for next week, so I'm excited for that. And Sadie, what do you think in this range, 12 to 17, 18? What do you think? Did we lose you, Steady?
Yes,
we lost him for a minute.
He's back. Steady is back.
Looks like he's muted.
I accidentally I've somehow accidentally hit the mute button. I mean, what a shock. What a terrible thing to have happen. So, the Panthers played me pretty close. We already talked about Mish, but he tends to play me close a lot of the time, to the extent of some maybe think that I keep his games close on purpose.
I attest to saying that.
Yeah, I mean, we'll leave that up to viewer interpretation, but and then obviously Luis, albeit, a little bit of an asterisk, I'd say, but I'm biased, did get a win over my Chicago Bears. So he could be a team to watch if he can keep winning. I think he's got a tough schedule yet, for sure. I mean, I have no idea who he plays. Is that even on Neon? Could you pull that up? The Lions
Let's
schedule?
take a look. You want to look at Luis's schedule?
Yeah, let's look at Luis's schedule.
Let's do a deep dive on some of these teams here. Let me just, when I click on this, oh, here we go. So you look at his team, 7-6, 90 overall, very good. We'll look at his remaining games really quickly.
Well, so next week he plays the Packers. I think he can definitely get a win there. I've heard a lot of good things about Crashy, but I'd say he's maybe been a team that's disappointed so far.
I think that's fair to say. Yes.
Yeah. So, probably not an easy schedule by any means. We were just hyping up Mish, and to end the season with him and my Bears is probably not ideal. Kind of a long shot at the playoffs, but if he can get there, his team is very talented, and they'll go as far as Luis is willing to take them.
Very diplomatic answer, like a politician. That's good. I like that.
I mean, Luis is a streaky player, right? I mean,
Yeah.
I think him and I think if I actually going back to the question before, I think him and Jit are very similar in mostly the fact that when they're hot, they're pretty much unstoppable. But as soon as they make one or two mistakes, it's pretty hard for them to succeed. I mean, I think Madden 24 last year, I mean, Jit threw one interception the entire playoff run in year one when he won the Super Bowl. One interception in 4 games. He destroyed everybody. I mean, he beat Steady by 28. He beat me by, I think, 21 or 28. And then, I mean, pretty much beat Kyle, I think it was by 2 touchdowns at the end of it. And I think Luis has that same ability where if he just kind of gets in the mode, especially with how good his team is, I think he could do the same thing and run through everybody.
I'd actually like to change my mind here. So I'm looking at this week 5 game against the Packers. 27-52. I mean, that sounds like a played game. Like it's not like 10-6 like a sim game. Like that game got played. I think we can't be losing 52-27 against a 3-9 football team. If we're gonna hope to do big things. Granted, it was early in the season and he seems to have gotten back on track, but it kind of bodes poorly that he's playing them again next week. And if they have his number, then that's not good.
Was that TJ or was that Realist? What do we know? What week did TJ?
Oh
no, that was definitely Realist because TJ left like week 1, man, or week 2.
Okay, it was early. Okay.
Yeah.
That's kind of goes back to what I said. Like Luis is one of those guys where if you get him throwing 2 or 3 picks, he's gonna throw 4 or 5. So
yeah,
I think
he lets it go. He there's no holding it back in his game.
He slings that thing.
Especially with a 99 throw power quarterback, a 98 speed receiver, and then with a Monra and another, I think the Newton guy's like 96 speed. I mean, you got to let it fly.
Absolutely. There's no doubt about that. And it's so funny you bring up Jit. I think when you look at the best runs, individual runs for a Super Bowl ever, his has to be like in the top 3. I mean, he was the Chargers. The guy I don't think he ever won a playoff game or maybe won before he went on that run. And he goes and he beats MYZ, which is a huge upset in itself. And those times was a different time than now. Now he kind of runs his own division, does his own thing. Then he goes and beats Steady, which is like, that is the upset of all upsets you could ever fucking have. Like a dude who's like the perennial 8 seed or 7 seed finally breaks through, beats him, and then beats Kyle, who's like the greatest player to never win a Super Bowl. And it's not even close. No one is ever gonna have that title over him. He needs to win one like no tomorrow. The guy needs a Super Bowl badly. So it's so funny when you compare Luis and Jit that Luis has no Super Bowl rings and Jit has 1, and he did it in such a way like it's kind of amazing, right?
Inspirational, even.
Sure.
Quite the Cinderella run, some would say. He muted
Perfect way to coin it.
MYZ.
Oh, I think that's top 1. I mean, I don't think there's ever been a YPL playoff run. I mean, he literally was unstoppable on offense. He didn't make any mistakes. Everything went his way. I don't think there was anything that we've ever seen like that in YPL history.
It was truly amazing. I just want to look at one thing here and go back to the original topic. We look at Luis's schedule, and he's fighting for the 7 seed. Let's look at Mish's schedule and see what he's kind of working with here, because they are almost on a collision course. Would you both agree? They're on a collision course to each other for that 7 seed. Like that's what it's looking like.
I would 100% agree. And I think this schedule is more favorable in comparison. We know how this Kansas City game went. We actually just seen that.
He won that
unfold.
game. So
he wins, yes, by 6 points.
And riding a 4-game win streak. And look at his last 2 losses. 1 point loss to Luis, 7-point loss to you. I mean, losing by 8 points to those kind of players there's no shame in that, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Casey, you got the win. Yeah.
Yeah, and I know the Cardinals, right? The Cardinals guy is solid. He's kind of one of those guys who's had a bad season, but generally is good. So I'd say that and obviously Luis himself are some of the biggest humps here on the schedule. I don't know anything about 49ers. It's DeJuan. That guy like barely plays his games, right? So
Shout out DeJuan.
yeah,
shout
shout out to DeJuan. Yeah. But you take it one step at a time, and right now that step's the Cardinals. And if you can get past that, I think we could see a damn good game of the week here in Week 18.
Yeah, I mean the Rams isn't a slouch either. I mean he's I think he has 10 wins, 9 wins. I mean he's had a great season. I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility for him to give Mich a game either.
I mean,
Yeah,
that's a
looking at
shot.
9-4 here. Lost to Luis pretty badly. It was close up until the end. And he may be fighting for his playoff spot as well with Shane right on his ass. Shane beat him a few weeks ago. Very bad loss here. Look at that score.
That's a bad loss.
And he's got Steady, Mich, DeJuan.
This guy, I don't know a ton about him, but at the start of the season, when everyone was up in arms about Marquise Brown, he was like, can you help me? Can you help me pass the ball? I want to pass the ball like you. So I don't know what the deal is for him to be 9-4 and like doing that. Do you think this is like the schedule? You know, does the schedule look favorable to you?
Let's go take a look. I went to the kitchen for a minute, but this is the first time we've actually broken down schedule. This is exciting for me. I'm like a nerd about this shit. Let's look at the Rams. We're gonna go from here.
Very favorable schedule, but he I think he's also.
Let's pull it up.
Let's look at his wins. He beat DeJuan. DeJuan is not the best player in the world. He beat Shane pretty good. That's a good win. Cincinnati, bad team. Lost by 2 scores to Terry. That's not great.
I mean,
it's not horrible either.
Terry's a good player. Goes to Super Bowls, so that's an acceptable loss.
Seattle, 10-point win over a team that hasn't won a game. EK, couple scores. Lost by 10 to the Ravens, who's not a great player, but he's a solid player. Beat Houston. Beat Carolina. That's a humongous win. Carolina always plays everybody tough. Another big win over Seattle. Cleveland, he beat Tony. That's my guy. And then lost these 2 games. But I'm going to get a little wild here. Go ahead.
Get wild.
No. I have to compile some
this
information.
This schedule looks terrible. This looks awful. These wins, most of them are not quality. The Panthers, I like the Panthers. The Panthers solid. Cardinals is solid. Okay. But outside of that, I mean, really not too great. He had a close game with a winless team. The team went from being undefeated to not having a win. I mean, talk about Super Bowl hangover, in magnitudes we've never seen, but different head coach. I think he needs to beat more teams that are, kind of respectable wins. And he's got some games left on the schedule here. If we scroll down, I think if he can do good against Mich, that could help. Obviously, a win over the Bears would kind of help alleviate some of that anxiety I'm feeling about this lack of quality wins. Yeah, we're gonna need to see him beat somebody. So, not impressed, though, personally.
What do you think, Miss? Impressive? Not impressive?
I mean, I'm always the one that says you can't control your schedule. You just got to win the games that are put in front of you. And I think regardless of, the schedule being maybe a little weak, he's definitely hit his stride. I mean, I think won maybe 2 or 3 games in the first 2 seasons each of his YPL career. And it's always good to see a prospect, hit a stride and go from, I think he had 3 wins last year, and now all of a sudden he has 9 and counting.
Yeah, I like the way you put it there. I think that's very fair. When you talk about prospects, it's great to develop them, and it kind of doesn't kill a league, but it creates a perennial problem when you can't develop talent. We've had a lot of guys come up and develop themselves, like Jit, former top 5, top 10 pick guy to being a Super Bowl champion, pretty great. So you can't take anything away from the guy. I just feel like there's the potential that he is. I'm going to say it possibly, and I like the guy. He's a bit of a fraud. And I think we should all pay attention to teams like this because you learn from stuff like this. And he may be a fraud. Do you guys disagree here?
Talking about the Rams?
Yes.
This guy has all the makings of a fraud. You know, if we were compiling all the things that would make up being a fraud, he's checking the boxes. So I mean he lacks confidence, like I was talking about earlier. He's played a cakewalk schedule and doesn't have quality wins. I mean, that sounds like a closed book fraud to me.
Yeah, the IRS is definitely giving him a call because there's some fraudulent activity going on in out there in LA.
And I'd love for him to prove us wrong. Just saying, throwing it out there. You're listening. I'd love for you to prove us wrong.
No, this is what it's all about. This is not like a shit on this guy parade. This is us being like, hey, you played poorly in your first few seasons because you were learning, and now that you're here, it's time for you to win these key games coming up. That's really what it comes. This is like, hey, wake the fuck up, dude. Wake up. These are big games coming ahead. And if you can't get out of this hole, if you lose your playoff spot, I mean, forget about it. That's like the worst case scenario ever, right? Get in there. At least get in there.
Yeah, making the playoffs, certainly a good goal to have. And from what I understand, he's a guy who started at the bottom of the bottom. Rams, not the best team, but he's built him up. He thinks he has a great team, and he's got the wins to show for it. He's just got to make that final push.
Sure, that's fair. I'm doing some math here. I don't know if you guys noticed.
Yeah, I know. I've seen that. So what's the deal with the math? Can you let us in on the big, you know, what you got planned here, or is it a secret?
This is gonna be kind of sad, and I hate to do it to the guy, but we're gonna do some math. This number represents his opponent's wins of the games he's played. So he has 9 wins. They have a combined record of those 9 teams or 7 teams because he played 2 divisional games of 28 wins. Those 7 teams. Now let's go on the other end here. Those 7 teams that he's played have 54 losses. So his win-loss rate of his opponents are 28 and 54. That's not very good.
That's terrible. That is really bad. That is like
54.
That is diabolical. I wish Neon had a thing for that. It seems like a thing they could easily implement, you know, like an opponent win-loss record, you know, like combined.
Hey, talk to Drakeoid, man. Talk to Drakeoid.
He's the boss.
I mean, a lot of people seem to interact with that guy, which I think is a shock. I mean, there's so many Madden leagues out there. So for like so many of them to be like, oh, yeah, I've talked to this guy before. I'm just like, damn, bro. Like, this guy must be real busy. Like, it's a lot of people to talk to.
Hey, man, he's the GOAT. He's made,
I mean, he is the guy.
Probably tens of thousands of dollars off this great website that he's made. I remember, you know, back in the day, you had like daddy leagues, and that kind of did a little bit of the same thing. But Neon was truly a revolutionary product. So shout out Drakey for that.
The Discord integration, I mean, top notch.
The bot is the big selling point.
Absolutely, the bot's amazing. My league that I'm admin in, we also use Neon. I've seen some use My Madden. I saw My Madden. Not gonna lie, I don't know if like Neon came after My Madden or not, but My Madden was also one of the bigger ones that has Discord integration. But certainly Neon blowing the competition out of the water, and that's why they're kind of like the premier front runner in regards to what people are using right now.
Mm-hmm. That's fair.
That's right.
He's definitely done his fucking thing and made a lot of money on Madden, and probably doesn't even play anymore. Just making money on guys like us who are nerding it out over leagues.
Huge suckers. I mean, every year he collects this paycheck. You know, like how much is it for a league? $30, $20,
20, like $25, something like that.
Yeah, bro. I mean, there's so many. I mean, you can probably get a number, but like thousands. Okay, $20 a pop. That's good money now. I'm sure he's spending a lot of that on, you know,
server costs. Probably.
Yes, absolutely, and that sort of thing. But probably still getting a nice little paycheck yearly there. So go him. What a big moment.
I don't want to spend too much time on Drakeoid and Neon Sports. It is like a revolutionary tool, especially with the AI bot.
Yeah.
I do know
this is about the YPL.
Yeah, YPL is the big baller. So he had 750 leagues about 2 years ago. So do the math on that real quick. Let's say it's $25 times 750. So we're looking at $18,750, and he's definitely grown since then. So this guy is making potentially up to $30,000 on Madden, 25 grand, at least 25 grand, if I had to say.
I mean, dude, He could
He's
buy
getting
his
his
own
money
Madden
up.
game every year. That's right. Like, man, that's exciting.
I mean, after 4 or 5 years of this, he'll be in the 100K club potentially because of his Neon Sports application. It's pretty amazing.
Well, it's only up from here. I mean, I've noticed he's always seems to be innovating and whatnot. So, um, excited to see what the future holds and what we can bring here to the YPL as the platform is upgraded.
Okay, I got a question for you, Steady.
I'm ready.
I've got a couple questions for the both of you before this podcast ends fairly soon. I don't want to hold you guys over like an hour or like, around the hour mark would be good. You're a guy that kind of came from the comp background and throwing cover beaters and sim cheese this and I want that ability that like does this league mean anything to you in comparison to your leagues that you play comp in? Because I'm just kind of curious about that.
Well, I mean, nobody likes to lose, but I'm trying not to be too torn up if I do, because it's a different game. Things are very different. But I've kind of got these, and it's kind of your fault, by the way, these astronomical expectations. And it's like, if this guy ever loses, then it's like the craziest thing ever. Like people lose games, man. We play on sim, like it happens. So I'm trying not to think too much about it, but unfortunately, I'm a guy who cares a lot about what other people think. So, not the easiest hurdle to get over in the world.
Well, YPL players and in podcast viewers alike, we've got some viewers that don't play in the league. They just like the politics of the league and they're interested. They want to hear things about it. Take it easy on Teddy. He's a human too. He can win games. He can lose them as well. He just wins a lot more than he loses. That's for sure.
Yeah, I mean, you peep that Neon record. It's pretty impressive. Some of these losses. You know what? That's the big thing. I care more about the Neon record than really anything else because it looks cool to be able to say like, yeah, I've won like 80 games and I have like 9 losses. So it's kind of a cool flex to have.
That's a phenomenal record. Also, congratulations to you on that. That's pretty
Thank
good.
you. We try our best.
Miz, I'm going to spitball you something. If you're not muted, I don't know if you're still here.
I am. I'm just muting when I'm not talking because my mic is kind of sensitive sometimes.
I've got a larger question for Steady at the end. I'm going to save it right at the end for you. You obviously are in a position outside of your play that has put you in a spot where you're on the outside looking in, and you of course want to make the playoffs and contend for a Super Bowl. Every team I ask, I like to give a spotlight to usually at the end of every podcast. What are your telling points? But you may not be on the podcast till next season or into the playoffs. So, what are your keys to success in the future besides banking on someone else winning? What does it have to be for you? Live and die by what? What is your motto, your rules, your mantra?
Oh, I mean, I think I'd say I'm a stronger defensive player than I am an offensive player. So if I find myself in a position where I can score, that usually helps. I try not to abuse the 99 speed receiver, and I think I've done a pretty good job at not doing that. So, but yeah, I mean, for me, I think I always build through my defense, and if I can find a way to score on offense, then I'll find myself in a lot of success. But the last 2 times I've lost in the playoffs, I had 3 points at halftime versus you, and then in the AFC Chipper it was 14-0 not last year, but the season before in season 2, right? It was you won 14-0. So
it was like 18-12 or something really low scoring.
I think I scored at the end. Yeah, I scored at the end. But yeah, I mean, if I trust my defense, especially in the playoffs when I'm actually locking in and making the correct adjustments. I think I held Kyle to 10 or maybe 14 points last year. He was the number 1 offense. So, I mean, I trust my defense when it comes to the playoffs. It's just, whether or not A, I make it, and B, if I can put up points once I get there.
Sure, that's a fair answer. Steady. To my last question for you before we get into some bullshit politics at the end. It looks like, and we've even spoken privately about this manner, that you will probably be playing towels at some point. And I think that's a game. And I don't want to say anything, speak for you, but I feel like it's a game that you kind of want. Like you kind of want to play this guy, and that you have a history with him. Obviously, 2 Super Bowls together, blowing each other out. This is a brand new game. These are brand new teams, brand new divisions. Everything about this situation is new. Um, do you feel like you will eventually see him in this the future of the season?
I mean, like you kind of said, it does kind of feel like a clash is inevitable, the unstoppable object versus the immovable force. But he's played very well. I think he's undefeated up to this point.
Undefeated, yes.
Falling out with Bo Nix.
It hurts
his
every day.
team's probably pretty solid. I mean, I'm not too well informed on the teams, and who's stacked and who really isn't. I know Miz has a great team, but I'm sure his team is going to be pretty damn good by that point. So he's smashed his competition so far. I think I did hear someone earlier say like maybe in Gen Chat that he's playing a last place schedule, so maybe a little bit of a cakewalk, but I know that he's a baller. So I think that matchup would definitely be one to watch. And we've got history. This would kind of be the third playoff meeting for us. So kind of the tiebreaker. I'd like to say that we're going to go ahead and win, but it's kind of I think it'll be a little bit of an uphill battle. I think that this Bears team is probably not where they need to be at this point in time, but I'm gonna try and get them there anyway. Like we're gonna try our best.
Yeah, and
great
I'll
fair
just
answer, yeah.
I'll interject quickly here, and you'd be right. The Giants team did not do well last year after their user got kicked. Joe Bart did a great job building that team. I mean, that team is really good. He made I think he got a lot of help. I know I personally tried to help him a lot. He was trying to make some really silly trades, like trading Dexter Lawrence for it was 2 firsts and like an 85 overall star player. But I think after that, the Kayvon Thibodeau trade, I think kind of worked out in his favor. I mean, he was able to draft some good players, and Kirby Joseph has been a beast. But he did a short in the stories. He did a really good job building that team for Towels. I think that the difference between his team and Steady's team is insane. AWAC's great guy, but he did not do a good job building that team. So I think, like you said, when the unstoppable force meets the immovable object, or however you put it, I think that'll be a very interesting game between you two. And I agree. I think you guys will play each other at some point, especially with Marcus really having a down year.
Yeah, I think this is something that it's kind of even been coming for a long time. I hate to be like the soothsayer about it, but it just seems like there's something left, Steady. Do you think there's something left? There's something there, right? That's the kind of vague kind of question I'm asking you about him.
Well, when it goes back and forth like that, like I know you're a big MMA guy, but you see guys fight. They clash twice, they split. There's got to be a third meeting, and it's just a matter of when that's going to happen. And it's not to like invalidate, a lot of these other competitors in the NFC. I really like. I think he's the Raiders, Kyle. He played a great game. We recently clashed up. I think he has a shot. The Panthers played great. I mean, he thinks maybe that he could have gotten a win in that game. I mean, there's a lot of teams that could easily like come away with maybe an upset win in this playoffs. But I think many would agree that the crash course certainly seems to be headed in the direction of Towels versus Steady to go to the Super Bowl.
And you want this game, right? This is not something you're shying away from. You do want this, right?
Yeah, like if we meet up, like in the playoffs, you got to be ready to play anybody. You got to be ready to play the best of the best. I'm ready for it. So, will the Bears be ready? Remains to be seen. But if that's what ends up happening, then we're gonna go ahead and put our heads down and get grinding, and see what we can do. But I think it would be good to finally break that tie especially after last cycle kind of ended prematurely, only a few years in. Like we never got to see those two dynasties keep clashing. It's a new era.
And a lot of things have changed for sure. I'm not going to hold you both much longer than this. I'm going to just take a quick look at his schedule. He beat Crashy pretty good. He beat Green Bay pretty good. He solid win over Viper, Dewan, Crashy again. The Jets have had a rough season. Tampa Bay, same. Washington, same. Dallas, same. He ran through Carolina. He burned through Buffalo. He had a close one with Atlanta. He's got Dallas again, will most likely win by a lot. He's got some tough games ahead. There's a chance that he does not go undefeated here. Benny 9-2 or 10-2. The Saints lost to the Chargers like 6-7, but a real scrappy, dangerous player when you put him when he's in certain spots. And you've got Miz in Washington. He's going to win because EK. Don't get me started on him. I don't want to talk about him. He's one player that I would punch at the cookout. So that's what I got to say about that. So there's a chance that you could even let's go back here. And you may be able to steal that 1 seed from him.
I mean, that would be wonderful. Now, I don't mind playing the extra game. That's another opportunity for the guys to get touchdowns, get better, improve. But obviously, you want the best chance of going to the Super Bowl. That 1 seed probably desirable, but that 2 spot not terrible either.
Very fair.
But that would be nice. Now, who the hell would get it? Because Saints, he's also 2 losses. I don't know how that would shake out, but seems possible that maybe he would be the one to take it. If he's down to 2 losses and Saints beat the Giants, he'd have tiebreaker over him. So does that mean he'd be the 1 seed? I've got no idea.
It's your 2 losses are to Detroit and to Denver, correct?
Yeah.
And Saints 2 losses. Miz, you're the historian. Who did Bay lose to?
I don't know. I haven't been keeping tabs on.
I always keep tabs on him. I love Benny. Lost to the Jets.
And
that might have been a sim. And lost to the Colts.
No NFC losses. But
no NFC losses, no.
Well, and then it sounds like maybe he'd be the guy.
No, him and Roman played that game. Him and Roman did play that game. It was not a sim.
Roman beat him. Wow, what an upset. Benny's looking very good.
Well, Benny is not a name I've heard very much at all. He's kind of gone under the radar, I'd say. I had no idea that guy was 10-2.
That's a lot of NFC teams for you. I mean, as much as the hate has been out there, and I know Mish will probably comment something on this, but I think, just overall, I think the people in the top of the NFC have maybe not been as relevant as the people at the top of the AFC in terms of, competing for a Super Bowl.
Well, in the past, it's been Mark. He's been the guy, and that's it. I think he's been to a couple straight. Yeah. So
yeah, three straight Mark Munch AFC or NFC championships versus the AFC. I believe we got a different matchup every year. First year was Terry
and who?
Terry and Bradster, wasn't it?
Yeah, something horrible like that.
Year 2 was me and you, and then you and Terry.
Yeah. So last year, 2 years, that was a heartbreaking end to my season last year. I was not happy with the way that game went. Kyle had him against the ropes and ultimately got a bail like, Sim, as Steady always says, and Sim in the playoffs when there's some nonsense that happens. And I know that they tune it up. There's like a little bail meter and they twist the knob. If you're losing by a touchdown or less with 2 minutes to go, throw something horrible, throw a bad pass, throw a jump ball because you're going to catch it in the playoffs in Sim. I've won games like that in this league where I have the con dog throw to Tyler Higbee with, at my own 50-yard line, 5 seconds left in the wild card. I throw a jump ball and I snag all over him in Hail Mary. Like, Sim leaves opportunity, which is fun and it's cool. It sucks when you're on the losing end, but there's less of it in comp. So some would say that comp is less realistic because that bail that does happens in real life all the fucking time, right?
Yeah,
I don't know. It's one perspective. It's one perspective.
No, I agree as well. I mean, you just kind of got to take the bullshit when it comes your way, and sometimes it's going to go against you.
I feel like Madden does do a good job of paying back. I think it does for the most part.
Well, with that all being said, is that where we're going to end things, fellas, or do you have any final thoughts and remarks?
Final thoughts. Shit. I haven't thought this far. We go ahead, Seti. Go ahead.
The Cardinals, I was talking about earlier, who could maybe come away with some wins here in the playoffs and maybe avoid that seemingly inevitable matchup. Obviously, the Saints, very good, it would appear. The Cardinals, I mean, the Rams, if he wants to prove that he's really a competitor, then he could go ahead and do that. I mean, I like the Panthers a lot. I mean, I don't like the Panthers a lot. I like the Panthers in terms of winning football games. Yes, a lot. And then we did talk about Mish, Luis. You know, who knows? It's up in the air. The NFC is wide open, as they say, since Mark's departure. So who's to say?
Well, the NFC, there's a reason why Mark left. He won his 2 Super Bowls, and he saw you and Towels get invited, and he said, "My team is fucked on cap. I'm out of here. I won. I did my winning. I'm leaving." But last thoughts here: if you had to do a YPL hacky sack race, you know what that is? A hacky sack race?
Is that you jump in the bag?
Yes, with one other user, and you got to beat out a team. Who would you pick? Who's your hacky sack user friend? Conglomerate fella. Who's the guy you're gonna pick to win that race?
You know what? I'm gonna go ahead and pick my guy Miz. You know, he and I are just such good buddies, and you know, I think we dominate in a hacky sack. So that's what I think.
Yeah,
That's what he'd do. That's right. He'd do something.
I think you and I both don't like to lose. I think we just stand a good chance.
Hell yeah, that sounds like a plan, bro. If there's ever a hacky sack race, like that's my guy.
At the
YPL cookout, when
there we go.
Michael makes us all some great barbecue, and
yeah, shout out to Michael.
Times.
Yeah, I love that guy.
Shout out to Michael's Kitchen on YouTube, MAICOL Kitchen. Check it out.
We'll link in the description for sure.
They got merch. They got merch if you want some.
Yeah, we'll put Mark's family on blast. Michael is a gangster. I've got a few of his shirts. He's the best.
That's right.
All right, fellas, it was a great pleasure. Steady, Miz.
Thank you for having me.
Coming down. Bears, go Pats. Let's see the Pats go on a run. Let's see Steady play Towels in the NFC Championship, hopefully. And let's close the season out the right way. Thank you, guys. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having us on. I was glad to share some thoughts about YPL. John Madden football is Steady.
That's right. Jonathan Earl Madden
gap
football,
going on
baby.
there, I love it. Yeah.